Okay. So, welcome to the foundation board meeting. I'm trying to look for my separate agenda, which I don't have it right now. But oh yeah, or I could have the electronic copy. But yeah, hey, thanks a lot, Kevin. Okay, perfect. So this is our third meeting, and we just finished the ISOC board meeting, so we are starting with this. We had a little break in between. So first of all, welcome to the meeting as usual. We have some remote participants there. Welcome everyone as well. So first, we didn't receive any apologies. So we have all trustees here, or I think we agreed, John, to call the foundation board members trustees as opposed to directors, right? Yeah, because we started calling directors and then we agreed on language. So probably it's good to avoid, you know, I mean, using different terminology, we will call trustees to the board members in the foundation as well. So all trustees are here, and so anyone, given the current proposed agenda, has any conflict of interest to declare? Nothing. Okay, not hearing any. We are good to go. So just moving to point number 2 on the agenda, which is the document resolutions we approved by e-vote since our last meeting. Which, as you know, I mean, we have rules for e-votes, which let us basically pass resolutions between face-to-face meetings. So, John, you want to talk about that? We don't need a resolution; it's just to document the decisions that were made.
Yeah, I mean, again, everybody here has already voted, has already seen and voted for these. We've passed 2 resolutions since the last meeting, and here they are on the screen, and they will go in the minutes.
Okay, thank you. So they will be minuted. Okay, so going to point number 3 on the agenda. As you know, we are trying to structure all the programs in the foundation, and for that, basically, I mean, the board, we have a role of setting the strategic direction. We have also staff working on that, consultants actually helping us with that. So in that sense, we need interactions at that level. So after discussing it, we thought that it would be best actually to appoint a subset of the board as a committee to just basically help with that and talk to the consultants, to staff. So basically work much closely, especially at the beginning when it's the setup of the programs and everything. Just to clarify, because sometimes we have this misunderstanding, these are not the people that will be deciding on who to give money to and things like that. This is just to set up the high-level structure of the foundation, just to be like super clear. So having said that, another point that I want to make it very clear is that the nature of this committee is advisory. So all the decisions will be made by the board, but the committee will be basically working on a more closely to the consultants and staff. So having said that, we have a proposal here to appoint, well, I can read, the members we are proposing. Hans-Peter as the chair of the committee, and then we would have Richard, John, Pepper, and Olga, and they would be serving until the AGM. So the appointment is from now until the AGM that is at some point in July, I think. Any questions before we pass the resolution? Okay, so I need someone to move. Haris moves. Olga seconds. Okay. We can have Hiroshi seconds, so that we have 2 people that they are not in the program committee. So it looks better. Okay. I never gave so much importance to who moves and seconds, but I may be the only one. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna do a show of hands. So we will be voting as usual: yes, no, and abstain. So yes votes, no votes, abstentions. Okay, so the resolution passes unanimously. That's great. Thank you. And Sandy, please reach out to Hans-Peter, who is the chair of the committee, and take it from there. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Okay, moving to point number 4, which is the operational updates. And Sandy and James are gonna drive that. So since Sandy is here, you decide how to drive it with James.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, we've already got that covered. Okay,
Excellent.
so I'll start off. Thank you, Gonzalo. Today, we're going to update the board on what we've been doing on the foundation since the last meeting in November, and we have gotten some work done. So we're happy to show you what we've done and to show you what our next steps are for the foundation. So, Kevin, can you do the next one? Thanks. I will just point out, James is going to get to this later, but if you look at just stare at there for a second, you'll see different font, you'll see a different brand, etc. And James is going to talk about how we got there and how that translates on the website, etc. So just want to.
Yeah, thank you, James. So when you want, and let me apologize again, because now must be super late there.
It's okay. I'm surviving.
Okay. Yeah, I see that. Okay. Thank you, James. Whenever you want,
Okay, so this is my slide. So first, to update on the operations, we've been, what we're saying, putting the pieces together. There's a lot that goes under the foundation in terms of supporting it, from being able to cut checks, how we're going to process those, etc. We've put a committee together within ISOC to work on this. It's the foundation committee, and we have one person who's project managing us and making sure it goes smoothly and everyone's doing what they're told to do, which is actually working out really well. So it's IT, HR, a bunch of people to make sure that we get everything smooth and going. So that's the core internet startup team. We've, just so you know, if we work on the foundation, we're tracking our hours, so we'll be able to move that over the foundation in terms of charging them, because we really want to know how much it takes. First of all, it's the right thing to do. Second of all, we need to know how much it takes to really work on this foundation, et cetera. Also, we've gotten MemberNova is doing our grants. That's already up and running with Beyond the Net programming, the small grants. So we've had, obviously, the IT team, et cetera, has worked really diligently to get that up and running right out the gate in 2019. So we've had a lot of progress there. Next slide, please.
Quick question, Sandy.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I'd seen we were using MemberNova for the AMS. It also has like grant management features.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Excellent.
Sure
Cool.
does.
I think it's probably a good idea to like dog food here, so we feel the same pain as our members do.
Oh yeah, it's very versatile. So we're.
So Zoom grant is gone.
That would be correct too, I guess. Yes. Executive director search. So as you know, we posted the job a couple of months ago, I think. Honestly, I can't remember. But anyway, to date, that number is probably outdated. I probably have over 100 applicants for the job. They come from all different countries. The majority is the US, but there are definitely, I had these statistics and I don't have in front of me, but it's from all over the world. I've had personally about 15 interviews so far. I'm doing phone screens. So we're hoping to get some candidates next back in to talk to Andrew. So we're hoping that moves along. Obviously, that's a big piece of getting this foundation going, is having the executive director to go and do all these programs and someone whose full-time job it is to work on the foundation. Desiree, did you have?
Yes, I noticed in the job application, it says it could be based elsewhere. Does it mean elsewhere in North America or elsewhere?
Elsewhere. Not just elsewhere in the US. Yep.
There's no reason this has to be anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't really care. With the exception that, obviously there are places where we couldn't hire them because like it would be illegal. But also, I think that it is important to recognize that we didn't set a closing date on this application thing. And so if you have people that you know who are really qualified candidates, please tell them now, because we are trying to move ahead.
Yes, valid. And after we go through the step, obviously we would bring it to the board. Wrong phrase. The person to the board for approval. So it's a process. We're hoping to move it along, but we need to find the exact right candidate to run this properly. So we're being thoughtful about it. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to James, who's going to walk us through the brand strategy development.
Thank you, Sandy. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. So yes, just a few slides to recap what we've done on the brand strategy and giving the foundation an identity and how we got to where we are today. So in February, we reached an important milestone really in the life of the foundation and something of a point of culmination for the brand strategy. Kevin, if you move forward a slide. On the 11th of February, we sent a note out to our community and to staff just to give people a heads up in terms of what was coming. And we, at that point, began to separate the Internet Society from the Internet Society Foundation. Next. A little while after that, on the 18th, that separation happened, and we introduced the initial phase of the foundation with the Beyond the Net small grants via the launch of the new foundation website. So something of a soft launch for the website and really the first phase of the rollout of the foundation to the community. But I think quite gratifying for us to see something come to life in this way. Next slide. Just looking at the website a little bit, it's really, I guess, the result of quite an intensive brand development process over the last few months. It's been quite an intense process. We built the website with mobile in mind so that people out there who are potentially interested in grants can access the website and can apply through mobile. The website also showcases quite nicely, I think, in quite a sort of well-packaged way, the strong visual identity that we've got now for the foundation. And it illustrates how we've managed to bring together some of the core elements of the Internet Society with points of differentiation for the foundation. As the foundation continues to grow and evolve, so too will the website. So that work hasn't stopped, but it's now out there and visible for people to see. Next. So just in terms of how the brand development process went, you'll remember that we had talked about a related brand approach as opposed to having the Internet Society master brand dictate everything that the foundation is and does and looks like. And conversely, we didn't want to create something which was a completely detached brand either, where there were very few commonalities or shared characteristics. So our brand strategy really was defined by that related brand approach, where we wanted to get a sense of shared characteristics whilst giving the foundation its own identity to reflect the degree of separation. We wanted a visual system that gives us flexibility to evolve it as the foundation itself evolves. And of course, thirdly, we wanted a brand system that really reflects the impact that the foundation can have on people's lives. Next. So as part of that then, we wanted to make sure that the commonality and the shared vision came through, where the shared heritage between the Internet Society and the foundation can help provide some momentum to the foundation. But at the same time, we wanted a brand, a visual brand and a brand structure that can help the foundation speak for itself in terms of its own mission. Next slide. This slide just outlines some of the differences, of course, which I think we're all very familiar with in terms of how the Internet Society is much more focused on that more advocacy-led work and the thinking around the issues we care about, whereas the foundation is there to tell success stories of how we've helped to change people's lives when it comes to the internet, and allows us to tell a very different kind of story than we would tell under the Internet Society banner. Next slide. So all of that in mind, we've borrowed from our core Internet Society brand, but given it a different treatment, so that we've created what we think is a brand which is recognizably the Internet Society, but at the same time distinct and unique. So linked to us, but separate. Next slide. To do that, just to give you a little bit of insight, we went back to the heart of our existing brand to inform what we did with the foundation brand. We explored the relationship between, some of the core elements of our existing visual identity, our logo, and we translated that into a slightly different language, but with some common threads, a lighter language, a language that allows us to be a little bit more playful in actual fact. So if you go to the next slide, what you actually get as a result of that is something of a loose link in the mark, the visual logo of the foundation, and some shared elements in terms of the same typography of the Internet Society and a different typography for the foundation, the word foundation itself. So it's actually a sort of cross-pollination of the new brand with the old, sharing some common elements, giving some distinct elements, but maintaining consistency and a link. If you move forward ahead, one slide, Kevin. And then everything else really flowed from that, to be honest. Next slide. So with that as our baseline, there are many ways to put the brand to work. Here's a sort of application that is a mock-up, but you can see how posters might look, out of home. You can see how the language translates to visuals. You can see how the sort of thematic is used across different outputs. If you move ahead, Kevin, we move from posters to something that would appear on mobile, social media, for example, to business cards, to badges that we would potentially wear at conferences. So it's got a wide appeal. It's easy to apply. It's easy to use. And I think it offers us quite a lot of opportunity and possibility to do some really different, fun things to help make the foundation stand out. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Sandy.
Thank you, James. Okay. So the first thing we did, which I said before, is, you can go to the next one, is we started Beyond the Net small grants, and that's up and running. We're very excited when we had our first application, because not only it was the foundation, it was new. We also, like I said, used Member Nova, so that was a bit of work to get that all sunk up, but it's working, it's running. We have applications, and we're excited about that. Okay. Oh, we did this in a weird way. Back to you. Next.
Yeah, back to me. It's all right. We're jumping around now.
Keep you on your toes, James. Wake up.
Yeah. So as far as the communications process is concerned, we've completed quite a lot of the phases that we'd originally mapped out. We've obviously done the brand strategy and design. We've launched the foundation, if you like, albeit a soft launch, to the community. The Beyond the Net small grants was very much part of that and went hand in hand with the launch of the website. And now it's really a question of ramping up our activity over time as the programs become more concrete and more formulated, as the executive director comes on board, so that we can build up to a bigger push externally later on in the year. So that's our current plan. And if you move to the next slide, you'll see a summary of the phases that we have already been through and completed and where we are now. And really it's all about building the website further, because there's still more to do. There are translations to consider. There are other content to develop. There are stories to develop and put on the website. And as the programs themselves become clearer, we'll include more information there too. So ramping up to more of a push later on in the year as the foundation builds and gathers momentum. And I think there's one remaining slide, Sandy.
Yeah, that's mine. Back to me. Okay. So the next steps operationally is obviously getting the executive director on board. That's the big one. We're going to engage, now that it's official, with the foundation program committee. We have job descriptions for the additional staff, program officers, et cetera, but we're holding until we get an executive director on board to lead that charge. We have, the one thing we have to do is the small grants are very straightforward. You know, they're small amounts, they get it approved, et cetera. But our next phase is the Beyond the Net large grants, and that has a selection committee, et cetera. We're going to go back to what Bridgespan's best practices were on this, on how to frame the selection committee, how many people, et cetera. So we're designing that as we go forward, and we're launching that, I believe. The goal is in May to be launch it on and take applications for the Beyond the Net large grants. Yes, it is Q2. The next after that, again, all depending on the executive director, but in our minds, it's, you know, disaster relief to look at that next, and then to the other program areas would be forthcoming after that. As again, we ramp up staff to be able to handle all this on a full-time basis. So I believe that's it. So that's, for me, it's very exciting to see, you know, especially what James does to put the foundation to life. This was an idea from a few years ago. And to me personally, it's just really exciting to see it, the faces and it all come to life. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And I mean, there were some messages on the chat saying that this retro look of the foundation is really cool. So yeah, good job actually. I see people nodding. So John, Haris, and Walid.
I guess now that you've had a chance to interview some of the candidates, I mean, is the quality what you hoped for? I mean, are you? Yeah.
John, this is an open session. Yes.
No. I'm not asking for any idea. I'm not asking for any identities or anything like that. I'm just wondering. I mean, are you confident that you're going to find somebody good in the pile you've got?
Yes.
Okay.
Short answer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's yes.
Good. Yeah, that's good. More things or?
No, that's it.
Okay, then Haris and Walid.
Thank you. That was excellent. Thank you very much. I'm just curious about the logo. The logo that you have. I see a lot of dots, and you know, is it animated in any sense? Do you have an opportunity to animate them for any reason, just to show some stuff?
There is a possibility that we could do that, yes. So I think in the same way that we have animated the Internet Society logo, and that lends itself quite well to digitization, if you like, we can do the same with the foundation. So we can have stories coming out of each one of the individual points, for example, on video. Okay. You can do a number of things with that. So it's got flexibility built in that sense.
Excellent. I got one other question, which is really nothing to do with the presentation per se, except the photograph in the second last slide. Can you just go back to the second last slide? Where did you get this photo from?
That's their backyard.
No, that I know where this place is. That's why I'm just wondering.
Really? I went online and got
Mount
it
Faber.
on.
This is Mount Faber in Singapore. This is a stretch which I go run up and down many times. So I recognized the photo as soon as I saw that.
Is your Google Drive open?
No, I just went and got a
Okay, I'm just
nice,
curious.
colorful picture to add.
Okay.
It steps.
Okay.
It's just for the purposes of this deck.
Yes.
It's not something we're using for the foundation itself.
Yeah.
No.
Wow, cool. Yeah, nice.
I found it online.
Keeps Haris fit. Yeah.
Exactly. They had to Photoshop out Haris from the stair. So, Walid.
I mean, first of all, congrats. I mean, this is really inspiring. And I'm sure that the staff are also inspired and excited about this. The one thing that I like quite a lot about this is the outward-looking perspective towards the world. I mean, that's something that ISOC has missed in the past. I mean, now it's like the opportunity to move forward. the emphasis here is about communication in different languages, and this is going to be a bit of a challenge, but an uphill battle. But I'm sure it can be rewarding. The plan for that, has it, at least in general terms, has it been discussed or is it on the agenda?
James, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So we've obviously been concerned with making sure we have some of the foundational pieces in place, such as the website. We know that we need to work on other language versions, translations. So now I think really is the time to dig into that and create a proper plan for that.
Do we have any more questions? Yeah, Glenn.
Yeah. Kevin, can you go back a few slides to the slide that has the 3 pictures with the lady with the radio?
You know the lady.
No, I know the radio. Yeah, further back. I don't know the lady. There. James, did you do this picture on the left with the radio?
Yes, that's come through from our agency partners that we use.
That's Bayless's radio. That's a Beijing free play radio. Do you recognize it?
Not specifically.
Okay. I launched that radio to North America in '94. So it was used for disaster relief. And when they first said it, they were dropping it from it was a wind-up radio, and you would play it for 20 minutes. And they would say they would drop it in disaster areas. All bullshit. Oh, I can't say shit. Yeah, it was all. Like, that's made in China. It used to be made in Cape Town. So just be cautious on that symbol.
Yeah. No, these are purely examples and not actual pictures or posters that we would want to circulate. Just for illustration. Thank you.
Anyone else knows something about the photo?
Yeah. Okay. There's a wealth of knowledge about the pictures.
Yeah. Okay. So Andrew has a question. So please.
So I have a question actually for the board about, and this is probably not a thing to answer today, but something you ought to think about. This question about translation and internationalization of the site and so on. One of the problems that comes with sort of picking some targets for translation is that you then don't target all the rest of them. And so one possibility is that we select a portfolio of languages, the usual suspects is the UN nations or something or the UN languages or something like that. If we do that, the expense of this is going to go up. And so I think it would be good for the board to think a little bit about how much you want to spend on that. Because we could spend a lot of money on the internationalization effort, which is not to say that's a bad idea, but that does mean that when we spend that money, we don't have it to give to people. Yeah. And so that's a trade-off that I think only the board can make.
And then I assume the cost profile is roughly linear in the number of languages.
It's not linear. Well, it depends on which languages you pick, because some languages are harder to do than others, but mostly yes.
So, I mean, with the programs we have in mind so far, because I guess, some of the programs we have, the candidate is clearly going to work in English, right? Let's say not all the programs, but some of them, yes. For example, if you are sending someone to the ITF, you work in English like 100%. And when we saw people that they didn't speak English, they couldn't be effective doing nothing. So how many of the programs you think that they would have that characteristic? And is it most of them, none of them?
Sort of none, right? Because the idea is that this is not a thing that we're running. The idea is that we're giving the money away and they're doing the thing. So Beyond the Net, for instance, is an example of this, right? There's no English requirement in those. And in fact, historically, there were lots of people who got Beyond the Net grants that did not speak English at least as their first language. On the candidate and whether the candidate has to speak English, because the board has decided that this person has to report to me, the candidate has to speak English, or we could maybe do it in French, but I can't do it.
No,
in
no,
another
yeah, I
language.
wasn't thinking of the kind. I was thinking of the people receiving the grants.
I see. Yeah. The people receiving the grants, there's no
No requirement. Okay, good. Yeah. No, because for example, when we were saying before, like fellowship program, for example, we were discussing before. I mean, I would assume that we will have a kind of common language for the fellows, something like that. Okay, but anyway, then let's assume that it's not going to be common, that so it could be anything, and probably we need to basically then look into having it in several languages. Olga and then Walid. Yes.
Maybe we don't have to translate everything. Perhaps the most important parts. Languages are important. It's a big barrier, and once you translate any communication, you see the impact that it has when it's in different languages. So maybe someone in the staff can check, and parts of it can be translated and others don't, and make it easier.
So to be clear, our experience in the staff with translation is that if we fail to translate some things, there is pressure. And in this particular case, I don't expect an enormous number of materials. This is not like the Internet Society site where we're generating a whole lot and putting things there, right? The idea here is that basically there's news about the things that we did, and there are granting programs, and there shouldn't be. This is not a high push site, or it shouldn't be anyway, because it's really what we're trying to do is highlight the activities of other people. We're trying to fund those things. So I wouldn't expect that this would become a major content producer. So I'm less worried about that, and I'm much more worried about the size of the maintenance, because many of the things that go up have to be really high quality translations, right? Low quality translations are going to be problematic, and so we're going to have to hire professionals to do this.
Along the lines of translation, since I brought it up, I think it also has it sends a message that the internet itself is beginning to change. It's not the predominantly English content that we see. So new languages are emerging, and so and on the side, it also has this positive connotation to it, that you're considering that the internet is for everyone. The other thing is that I agree, not everything should be translated. In fact, most of the content that would be translated is the static content that would be published once, like forms, this is the first thing that pops up to mind. When you do a search on any language, you find that there is an opportunity to apply, that should be it, the first step. Then usually, from experience, that many of those who apply can then find help in formulating their ideas, the proposals. We need not have someone receiving proposals in other languages. So it's important that they are delivered in English. So this is basically to give the opportunity for them to access, to learn, to search.
So that's an interesting point that you've just made, that what you're suggesting is that people being able to learn about this in their language is important, but you're prepared to set the bar such that they have to be functionally good enough in English to apply, and the application materials are going to be in English. That's okay with me. I mean, I don't have an opinion about what the right answer is here. I'm just saying you're going to have to decide what you're going to spend your money on, because got it.
Yeah, we need to think whether that makes sense, because I mean, if the person needs to be proficient anyway, I don't know. So it was first Pepper and then Richard. Sorry. Yes. Pepper, you wanted to talk? Yes.
Yeah. So I understand what you're saying, but I think Walid's point is actually a good one, because it is about being promotional. So somebody may see something in their own language, for example, let's say in Spanish, and then they point to somebody that they know, in school, saying this is something you might be interested in, and they may be proficient in English. But what we're trying to do is reach out through the broader community, as making the world aware of the foundation. And I think for that, having multiple languages, but not the craziness of what the EU does. But then the application material, the other material, I think reasonably can be in English. But we want to reach out We want to make it known even among people who would not necessarily be applying, especially among government officials.
Yeah, I understand that,
And that's why, yeah.
We've been talking about, like Olga has made that point very often, which is like sometimes someone, as you said, that doesn't speak English can basically talk to a friend and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, I know that some people are more positive about that use case than me, but that's okay. Yeah, I think that, yeah, you have a good point about, yeah, the reach out and promotion. Maybe we have some value there that is more than marginal. Yeah. So Walid and then Richard.
Okay. Otherwise, you may end up, in fact, in a position of having to respond. I mean, if you open up the case that having forms in these languages as well in response, that will create a huge backlash, because some countries will say then there's bias. Always these countries will get the grants.
Be clear, I mean, I wasn't leaning on that direction. I was leaning in the other direction. That if my point was like, yeah, I know Hans-Peter. I mean, it was Richard and Hans-Peter. That if somebody could speak English, like he could read or she could read everything. So that was the point I was making, and I think Pepper covered the use cases that would make it basically, let's say, more interesting to have it in several languages. Yeah. So Richard and Hans-Peter.
So I took just a second and looked up a couple of comparable organizations. I pasted a few links into the Slack, but the state of the art seems to be that the front pages of these major international organizations are available in kind of 4 to 6 languages. One interesting case I thought that kind of supports Walid's point is the International Committee of the Red Cross has their main content available in 7 different languages, but then lists some content that's available in an additional 7 languages. So the main content is the typical, I think, UN selection, but then they have like Indonesian, Hebrew, Japanese, Korean, Thai, and a few others in the secondary selection. So it's kind of supports this idea that we could provide some broad coverage on a selective set of content, but still have some a consistent back end.
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm not pushing back on anything. I'm always aware of the opportunity cost. So if you ask me, and if I need to translate something or give another grant, I'm clear to give another grant.
Yeah.
But if we translate, we are not making that decision. So I just want to make that very explicit. That
I think the gist of Walid's comment, though, is that you can extract most of the value from the translations at a lower cost.
Yes,
by focusing.
And that would be very good. Yeah. Hans-Peter.
Yeah, just building on Olga's remarks, I would add a use case where not a single person is applying, but a group of persons. I think we have to see that the foundation is not only giving out travel grants or so to a single person, but to a whole group. And then it's enough that you have one person in the group who writes better English, and it would be okay to have the landing page, the starting page, the top whatever pages in several languages to reach out.
That's a good use case, actually. Yeah. More questions, comments? Okay, do you get the input you needed?
I totally do. I would expect actually that this is going to be one of the priorities of the ED. So somebody's going to come to you with a funding request, and I just want you to think about what you want. So this is very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. You were done.
So yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
Good. James,
For now.
were you done as well?
All finished. And thank you for the conversation on translation, because I think as the discussion demonstrated, it's an important topic and a relatively layered and complicated topic, actually, when you get into it. So it was good to hear that.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So then, we would be moving to any other business already, or?
That was already.
Well, yeah. No, I know the closed session, but so any other business before we close? Okay, no. Well, perfect. Then we're gonna be basically closing the open part of this meeting and then going to executive session. So we will officially adjourn the meeting in the executive session. Do we need to adjourn now?
No, I think we come out of
no, because
adjourning is privilege.
Yeah, so we will adjourn in the executive session. So this is the end of the open session. Okay, so the open part of the meeting is closed. Thank you.